had the ability to steal the Flash's powers, and I'd love to know how you did that.
Greg, move your head.
Știai că în fiecare vineri Warner TV are cele mai bune filme?
Yeah, I know.
Ești sigur?
I know.
Filme celebre. În fiecare vineri de la 20:30 la Warner TV. De această dată cu M. Butterfly și Michael Collins.
I think that I realized I was a New Yorker or had a New York quality about me when I moved to Los Angeles. I went out to Los Angeles. I didn't move to Los Angeles when I was 19. It was 1989, and I started doing stand-up comedy at the Improv in Los Angeles. And I mean, I have an accent now, but then I was 19 and I was, you know, and I was New York and it was, you know, tough and, you know, it was, you know, I thought I was. But, you know, the way I spoke and presented myself, my whole presentation was brought to my attention very quickly. So, because, you know, I'm so combative, of course I embraced it and probably subconsciously heightened my presentation and my New Yorkness and all that stuff. And so it was probably when I was 19 when I started doing stand-up comedy and started hanging around outside of New York types. Well, I mean, being a New Yorker and watching New Yorkers, I mean, there's characters all over the city. So, you know, you take things from people, little things they might say, you might hear, the way someone talks, or you're in a grocery store and you hear somebody, you know, get angry at somebody and just a word they say or the way they say it or, you know, their hand or expression. I mean, I think all that stuff influences me. You know, I'm very comfortable playing New York characters of different classes. You know, which is good, and you know, it's obviously something I've done and I'm comfortable with, and I think that New Yorkers are intrinsically, you know, characters. You know, there's all sorts of New Yorkers, you know, and they come in all different shapes, sizes, but they all sound similar. Just the volume might be different. But I mean, I love New Yorkers. I mean, they're funny. And you know, I look at sometimes older New Yorkers, like older men, older women, who traditionally, to this day, you'll see like an older man walking around like in a suit, you know, waiting for the bus. And you're like looking at this guy like, this guy's got a suit on with a nice hat and shoes, and he's waiting for the bus, probably just to go do errands. And you look at the way he's dressed, and you're like, that's like a dinosaur, you know, because, you know, people in my era, I mean, I'm dressed up right now. You know, so I wonder, like, with kids my age, what are we gonna wear? Because it damn sure ain't gonna be a suit, you know. But I just think it's an interesting thing about you know, older people, particularly in New York, and you see them out. And I mean, everybody in New York could be in a movie. That's why you get to like, oh yeah, he never acted before, and he's like in Woody Allen movies or Spike Lee. You use non-actors because they're, you know, they're natural performers. I mean, my father's dying to be in movies. Takes credit for everything I do. You know what I mean? He's like, you steal all my. Being an actor, making a movie on location or television in New York, anything in New York, but on the streets of New York, if you're shooting, there's an energy, there's an excitement. It's almost like you're playing on the biggest stage, you know, because there's so many iconic films from New York, and whether you're from here or not, you've seen them, and you've seen them on the streets, from, you know, Woody Allen to Pacino movies to Scorsese, like you've seen that. So to be on the streets of New York and the energy and the hustle and bustle, it's almost like, you know, playing in Madison Square Garden. It's the same thing, like you feel that extra excitement. And just the city itself, it lends to that. So for me, whenever I'm shooting in New York, I'm always a little bit, you know, got a little bit of more energy. And like, you just feel like you know, it's like, sounds corny, but like you made it. Like, yo, I'm shooting a movie in New York. And if you're shooting a good movie in New York with good people, then it's like, that's high. That's high level. The actors that most embody the essence of New York are John Turturro, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Christopher Walken, Harvey Keitel. Who else? There's so many of them. Dustin Hoffman, even though he's not from New York, he represented New York. He felt like he was a New Yorker. You know, I think he's from LA. I'm pretty sure he's from LA, but you know, Lenny and Midnight Cowboy. I mean, he embodies New York really well. He's Jewish. See, he felt like a New York Jew. Dustin Hoffman feels like a New York Jew. I wonder if he had family from New York, because he definitely felt like he feels like a New York Jew. He feels like, you know, someone like your neighbor or something, like a guy like getting a knish. I don't feel like Marlon Brando is a New York actor. I felt like, you know, for me, I mean, he did it pretty well when he did it. I'm saying Marlon Brando, yeah, he did it pretty well. That's the end of my career. Really? He did it pretty well? I mean, yeah, I mean, he did everything pretty well. He was pretty good, right? He's all right. I'm getting in trouble here. I don't think of Brando as a New York actor. I think of him as a New York schooled actor. But isn't he from Nebraska? Right, see, you could tell. You could tell, even the greatest. The New York accent is not an easy thing to depict. And even the great Marlon Brando, who did it a few times and did it really pretty well, you know, you can tell a little bit. It's a little bit different. New York accent is not easy to do. Was Paul Newman from New York? See, all these guys studied in New York. And they're New York actors by training. But there are certain things you can't train. You got to be brought up here, and it's got to be in your blood, and you know, it's not something you could teach. Because I think filmmakers like Spike Lee, Woody Allen, Scorsese definitely have, you know, they represent New York, but you know, they also represent certain neighborhoods in New York. Like Woody's definitely the Upper East Side. Woody's definitely, you know, there's an Elegance, there's Central Park, there's Park Avenue. And Spike is definitely Brooklyn all day, and you know, and I think it's what you're familiar with, and where you're from, and there's a shorthand. If you grew up here and you look at things, you know, there's a shorthand. Like Woody Allen could probably off the top of his head say, you know, if I want to shoot at a coffee shop, there's a coffee shop in his head. Whereas Scorsese, he thinks of a coffee shop, it's going to be a different coffee shop. What his vision is of a coffee shop is going to be different than what Woody Allen's version of a coffee shop is cinematically, because if you're from the Upper East Side, you're thinking one thing. If you're from, you know, the Village or Little Italy like Scorsese, you're thinking of another thing. And obviously Spike and all the other, you know, places throughout the city. Like even, you know, the West Side is different than the East Side. You know, like Nora Ephron shoots a lot of movies on the Upper West Side. And it looks different. Most people won't pick up on it, but you know, if you're from New York, you can tell as soon as you see them walking where it is, the vibe a bit, the places they go into, where they shoot. And I mean, it's just about a shorthand and your shorthand relationship with the city. I would absolutely say there is a New York state of mind, as the song says. New York state of mind is about independence. New York state of mind is about individuality, acceptance, and you know, just, I mean, if you're from New York, you know that this is the best city in the whole world. You know that. You don't even have to say it. I don't care. I've been to some other places. I haven't been to everywhere, but there's no doubt in my mind. As great as the other places are, there's nothing like, this is it. New York is the best place, period, for everything. Gentrified, not gentrified, this is the best. Top to bottom, all encompassed, they got everything here. Food, architecture.
Uneori, un caz de crimă rămâne nerezolvat.
27 years ago and you're just telling me this now?
Dar nicio victimă nu va fi uitată.
You don't always get them the first time.
Iar noile dovezi îi readuc pe detectivi la anchetă.
People who wouldn't talk then might be willing to now. What if I do solve it?
Cu sânge rece. Astăzi după amiază la Warner TV. Călătoria ta muzicală începe chiar aici. Luni muzicale. În seara asta la 20:30 la Warner TV. De această dată cu Selena.
What are you doing?
Trying to make room in the closet. I'm taking some of our clothes down to the basement.
I don't see our clothes. I see my clothes.
Don't worry, I left the 3 shirts you actually wear in there, including your Blackhawks jersey, or as I like to call it, your weekend moo-moo.
How come my things always get relegated to the basement? You put my guitar down there and my rollerblades.
I waited 6 months for you to either skate past me or play me a song, neither of which ever happened.
Oh, I see, but your old tap shoes made the final cut, so you planning on shuffling off the Buffalo anytime soon?
Hey, my tippy taps are a precious child